Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, sisters?
Alhamdulillah, we are fine. Jazakallah. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Barakallahu feekum. I hope and pray that you all are getting ready for and excited for Ramadan, inshallah. This Ramadan, may Allah, inshallah, make us all to have one of the best Ramadan, inshallah. So we'll begin, inshallah. Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'una wa yanfa'una bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilman nafi'an innaka antal alimul hakim. Rabbana zidna ilma. How to prepare for Ramadan? I am sure all of you have passed so many Ramadan, at least a few. This is not any of our first Ramadan. Is there anyone who is going to have the first Ramadan this year? No, right? So all of you have had Ramadans before. You have experienced the Ramadan before, right? I don't hear any response.
Yes. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, Zubayda, you wanted to turn off all the mics, so I forgot all the conditions.
No, it is on now. Anyone want to unmute, they can unmute and talk.
Do you have no problem with that?
No, it's okay. I hope the sisters cooperate with it. And
Inshallah. Okay, so since it is not our first Ramadan, we have experienced Ramadan, so it is nothing new. But every Ramadan is different from the past Ramadan. You have experienced maybe few Ramadans, you know it from your experience that the previous Ramadan was not like the Ramadan that you had, the one before this, right? So always there is something different. And always, inshallah, we look forward to become better. And one of the ways that we need to compare, if we have to compare ourselves with, we should not compare ourselves with anyone else but ourselves. How do we compare ourselves with ourselves? How I was yesterday should not be the same how I am today. How I am today should not be how I will be tomorrow. I should have at least one additional good deed from yesterday to today and today to tomorrow. I should have removed one of my bad habits, one of the sins that I am engaged in. Something negative has to be gone out of my list from yesterday to today and today to tomorrow. That is how we become closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hope of His mercy and in the hope of attaining Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. We know that Jannah is not one level. Jannah has so many different layers. One Sahaba asked from Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, Jannah has similar number of levels as the number of ayat in the Quran. Meaning how much? 6,236 levels, right? So, you don't want to be level number 1, you want to be in the highest level, right? So, in order to be like that, we need to strive. Our whole life is a struggle. The more you struggle, the more you achieve. Inshallah, if your intentions are clear. So, for all these things, what matters the most is our heart, right? So, when we are preparing, especially ladies, when you say that preparation for Ramadan, for most of us would be preparation for good recipes and good food, filling up your fridge and, going for shopping and arranging for Eid dresses and all these things, right? But real preparation should be to the real vessel that would carry our good and bad deeds. Rasulullah Sallallahu has said, in our entire human body, there is a small, a portion of flesh. And that flesh, if it is good, then the entire body will be good. If it is bad, then the entire body will be bad. Your existence is determined by this particular small piece of flesh. What is that flesh? A piece of flesh? Rasulullah has said, وَهِيَ الْقَلْبِ وَهِيَ الْقَلْبِ. So this is the qalb. This is what will either make you a good person or a bad person. So the distinction between a good from the good person to the bad person is the difference between your hearts. So the main vessel that we need to prepare for Ramadan is our heart. How do we prepare our heart? We have no access to touch the heart, right? We are not, none of us, I think, cardiac surgeons here. So how do we know? How do we prepare the heart? There is a way to prepare heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created the human hearts at the inception of the creation, all our hearts are shining like you can see through it, and it is very shining bright, nothing bad in it, right? The more we live longer, the more we commit deeds that would either illuminate that shine or block that shine and make it darker and darker and darker. The moment you commit a sin, a black spot would come upon your heart. Then you do not repent from that and do another sin, then another black spot. This way, hearts can become completely dark and black. When there is no spot remaining, except everything has become black, then there comes a seal, and then there comes a lock. So once the hearts are locked, no matter what other people will come and show you as good, you will not see it as good. So that is why in Suratul Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, when Allah is describing someone as blind, that is not the physical eyes that is blind, but the hearts that are located in your chest, that is what is blind. May Allah not make us be blind or even to have even any dirt in our hearts. May Allah help us to purify our hearts and be carrying the best vessels to carry all the goodness, inshallah, in this Ramadan and all throughout our lives, inshallah, ya Rab. So, when we are purifying our hearts, the way to purify our heart is to cleanse ourselves from sins. So, Sha'ban is a month that is just before Ramadan. Now we are in the end, towards the end of Sha'ban. Still, it is not too late. You need to do lots of istighfar in order to purify yourself from whatever mistakes, whatever sins you have committed, whether knowingly, unknowingly, willingly, unwillingly, whatever way, you need to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to cleanse your heart. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, someone whose previous sins, present sins, and even the future sins are forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah has clearly informed him about it, he never stayed in one gathering without him reciting istighfar for at least 70 to 100 times. He knew all his sins are forgiven. And he was someone who would remain in Qiyam al-Layl, performing salah, asking Allah to forgive him. And Aisha, until his feet are swollen, and Aisha radiallahu anha, she would be, worried, and she would ask, Ya Rasulullah, you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven you, your present sins, your future sins, and your past sins. So why are you torturing yourself so much? And why you are doing so much of ibadah? So what was the reply of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, shouldn't I be a grateful servant? Shouldn't I be grateful for the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done to me? So this is a means, istighfar is also a means of showing your gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah Nuh, Surah Nuh is something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining us, if your sustenance are blocked, how do you get it back? How do you how do you remove the barriers between you and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descending upon you? That is through istighfar. When you do istighfar, all these barriers between you and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be removed so that it would descend upon you without any without any barriers, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Yursilis samaa alaykum midrara. ويمددكم بأموال وبنين ويجعل لكم جنات ويجعل لكم أنهارا. All these things would happen because what? Because of the istighfar. So when Hassan al-Basri, one of the famous tabi'in, he used to receive so many people with so many complaints. Yani, I have so much financial problems. What should I do? He would say, do istighfar. Another person will come say, we have tried so much, we still do not have children. And we are both healthy, me and my wife. What should we do? We'd say, do istighfar. Another person will come and say, we have seek the help from all the best of the best doctors, but we are still sick. He would say, do istighfar. And his students observe this and they are asking him afterwards, Yani, so many different people came with so many different questions. But your answer for all different questions was the exact same answer. You told everybody, do istighfar, do istighfar. Then Hassan al-Basri would recite these ayahs from Surah Nuh and explain to them. So when you are making du'as, the du'as, like, when you are going in a highway, there are certain barricades, certain place checkpoints, to check your identity or whatever, right? So these are, like when you are going to a long journey, maybe you have to go through certain number of airports and certain number of transit zones. So they are like barriers, right? So your du'as, when you are making a du'a, it goes upwards, right? Towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now when it is going upwards, there are also barriers. These barriers are created by we our own selves through our sins. These are the things that would act as barriers which would prevent your dua reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once the barriers are removed, it would go straight up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It would be, insha'Allah, answered once these barriers are removed. So how do we remove the barriers? By shooting all the barriers with istighfar. But it has to be sincere. Not just, like, blah, 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 blah. Just say istighfar, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. No. You have to say it from the bottom of your heart. Recognize your mistakes. Ya Allah, I'm very weak. I have done this, this, this. If you recognize your mistake, if you also don't know your mistake, you can also say, Ya Allah, I don't even know what I have done. Someone like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, there is no one who can get close to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq with his sincerity and with his deeds. Yet Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he used to say, and Rabbi inni zalamtu nafsi zulman kathiran. فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. This is Abu Bakr. This is the one who spent for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything that he had. And this is Abu Bakr, who migrated with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was the very first to accept Islam. And yet, with all his sincerity and all his good deeds, he would seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness, saying, Ya Allah, I have done so much wrong to myself. So what about you and me? And how much time do we waste on social media? That itself is enough sin, right? And today, obviously, we are living in a time of fitna. Sins are not being recognized as sins because we are being so desynthesized to the sin. What do you mean desynthesized? Because everybody is doing it, because it is so much publicly exposed, so it is very, very difficult for anybody to recognize it is a sin. And that is why it has become really a great calamity. And that is why we really need to repent much more than the previous generation. So, in order to prepare for Ramadan, first thing we should yani, put more effort and time, not on shopping, but to have some solitary time in doing istighfar and take your own self into accountability. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he used to say, yani, take yourself into accountability before you are being held accountable. You understand? So before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala call you on the day of judgment and hold you accountable for your own actions, think about yourself and take yourself into accountability. It is a good thing also to have a list of your own deeds that you can recognize as your bad deeds and try eliminating one every day, one at a time, repenting from everything one at a time. So you will shine as bright as the way how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us originally, insha'Allah. Okay, so that is regarding the heart. Now, when it come to children, those mothers who have children, you put certain conditions, you give rules and regulations, right? You are trying to discipline them, yeah. But what about we ourselves as adults? The more we grow old, we try to forget about disciplining our own selves. But self-discipline is something extremely, extremely important in our deen. How do we self-discipline? Number one, one of the major ways of having a spiritual booster or having sort of, how do you say, um, cleansing inwardly, you need to make certain strict conditions upon yourself. Huh? Yani, you say, this Ramadan, I am going to finish reciting the Quran with proper tajweed from Fatiha to Nas X number of time. Yeah, you don't have to tell anybody. It is only between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you make certain goals for yourself. Yeah. And you also put a condition, if I don't do it, I am going to, look, like, for example, like some of the Tabi'in, they used to say that they used to punish themselves, like when a child is not doing the homework properly, what do the teachers or mothers do? And little punishment is not like any physical harm or anything, but punishment intending to discipline you, right? If you don't attain your target, you deprive yourself maybe from giving a treat or buying a beautiful dress for the Eid. Whatever, yani you put a condition prior to Ramadan. Yeah, you have made a list of things that you are going to do. These are my targets I am going to achieve through this Ramadan. Ramadan is like a school. Okay, Ramadan is not an end. When you go to school, before you go to school, you didn't know ABC, you didn't know 1, 2, 3. Now when you graduate from school, you know all these things. But are you going to throw all the books and everything and khalas, now you will again go back to the day how you were in the nursery? No, you are going to progress. You are going to go to university, right? And in the university, you will utilize what you have learned in the school, right? That should help you in progressing. So similarly, Ramadan is a school. So if you have completely, properly graduated from the school of Ramadan, once when the Eid comes, you incorporate all these what you have learned in Ramadan into the rest of your life. That will be a ladder that will take you up and in the scale of doing, progressing more in your good deeds. Yeah, I hope it is clear, right? So what do? You make certain goals, but the goals should be realistic. It should be measurable goals. It should be realistic goals. And when you put the goals, also along with the goals, you should put something to hold yourself accountable. So let's say the first week of Ramadan, I'm going to achieve this many things. I'm going to give this much sadaqah. I am going to hold my bad temper. I am going to uh, be good to so XYZ people who I was not good to. I'm going to lower my ego. Whatever, you know yourself. So you put certain things, what you are going to do within the first week of Ramadan. So at the end of the first week, you check whether what and how much percentage you have attained your good deeds. If you have attained 100%, you reward yourself. Maybe you cook something nicer for your iftar, or maybe you treat yourself with a nice dress. Whatever, you have a reward for yourself, as well as if you did not attain any of the goal, you have a punishment. What is the punishment? You deprive yourself from something that you like, so that you are self-disciplining. So this is the way how you can have yourself into this way of self-disciplining to improve your spirituality, because nobody is going to do it for you. You have to be the one to do it, right? So what is Ramadan? Why Ramadan is so special? Ramadan is the month that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down all the revelations to his beloved chosen prophets and messengers, right? And among them is the final revelation, which is the Quran. And Quran is the center of Ramadan. Yeah, more than our fasting, and yes, we are fasting. Fasting is one of the pillar of Ramadan, right? We must fast. There is no excuse for not to fast for somebody who is physically capable, sane, adult person, who is, if it is a woman, not menstruating, not having postnatal bleeding, you have no excuse not to break a day in the month of Ramadan. If you break one day in the month of Ramadan, and you cannot recover that by perpetually fasting all throughout your life. Even if you were to fast every day of the rest of your life, it will not be equivalent to that one day you break the fast while you had the ability to complete your fast in the month of Ramadan. So none of us should break any single day of fasting in the month of Ramadan without having a real Sharia acceptable valid excuse. Okay. Subaida, I am getting a message saying guests are waiting in the lobby.
Yeah, miss, I'm admitting.
Okay. So now, what is the value of fasting? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a Qudsi hadith. Qudsi hadith means Rasulullah sallallahu is telling us with his own words, but he's saying Allah said. Yeah. If it is purely Allah's word, that is Quran. If Rasulullah sallallahu is rephrasing it in his own words and telling us what Allah said, that is called Qudsi hadith, right? In a Qudsi hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying every action of a Bani Adam, son of a child of Adam, is for him, except for fasting. Fasting is for me and it's solely for me, and I will be the one to reward it. And if you look at certain deeds, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will sometimes let us know what would be the exact reward for this particular deed, right? But when it comes to fasting, it is not mentioned, right? Especially the fasting which is obligatory, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself will decide the reward. And there is a gate in Jannah, one particular gate in Jannah called Rayyan. Rai is somebody who is very, very thirsty. If you give that person a drink which is really quenching his thirst, that is called Rai, right? So Rayyan comes from that word. So Rayyan is the name of a gate in Jannah. And on the day of judgment, this gate will fall for the people who used to fast and sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah make us among them, inshallah, ya Rab. So, fasting, yani you can do voluntarily as well as you can do, yani you must do the obligatory one. Obligatory one is only in the month of Ramadan, unless you have yani done another, or you have done a certain sin which you are going to do kafara, you are going to do yani some expiation for the sin, and certain sins would require you to fast certain number of days. Yeah, these are the things that are obligatory in fasting, but other than that, you may fast voluntarily any day of the year. But there are certain days which are better than the other days, like the month of Shaban. Just prior to the beginning of Ramadan, Rasulullah Sallallahu used to fast this month so extensively, to an extent some month, yani some Sahabas yani thought yani he would not stop at all. He would only stop the last day or two. There is absolute prohibition of fasting the day which is the Yawm Shak. What is Yawm Shak? The day of doubtfulness. Yani means the day prior to the beginning of Ramadan. Mean our months are lunar months, right? So month may have 29 days or 30 days. So how do we know whether this month is 29 or 30 days? Not through astronomical calculation, but by sighting the moon. So 29th night, people would try to sight the crescent of the moon, the new moon, and when you see it, that will become the next day, beginning of the next day. Means that month had only 29 days. On the 29th night, if you did not observe the moon, then that would be considered a month with 30 days. So there are no months in the lunar calendar which has more than 30 days. So there will be no 31 days. So immediately after completing the 30 days, that would be automatically the first day of the month of Ramadan. So month of Ramadan is not based on calculations, but based on sighting the moon. And sighting the moon is also one of the sunnah that you will be rewarded for. Going out and looking forward to see the crescent is also one of the sunnahs. Obviously, today in our time, because of the street lights, we are not able to witness the moon in cities that we are highly populated. That's why people used to go to mountainous areas, or if it is Bahrain, normally, like in the desert area, where in like Sakhir, where people are camping. And these are places which are not yet polluted with the street lights. You can still observe the crescent. Okay. And every location should have one sighting. Means it is not like if we sight the moon in Bahrain, it is not applicable for the whole world. Yeah, sighting can be done in different locations, unlike in the month of Hajj. Month of Hajj, because Hajj is a ritual that is going to be performed in Mecca. So one person sighting the moon for the month of Dhul Hijjah would be sufficient for the ummah. But when it comes to Ramadan, it is permissible, it is okay, according to majority of the scholars, that each location you may have different sighting, right? Okay, so once in the Ramadan begins, what do we have to do? Every day of Ramadan, you need to have the niyyah of observing fasting. Observe, and niyyah is not something that you utter with certain specific wordings. Niyyah is what your mental status. I am going to observe fasting. And remember the hadith. Yani Rasulullah SAW has said, Man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dambihi. Yani whoever fasts the month of Ramadan with iman, with the proper belief, with the proper aqidah, and ihtisaban. Ihtisaban means expectation of a reward. You are not just fasting just like that. You expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from you and reward you. If you do that, then your all previous sins would be forgiven. Yani this yani only yani exclusion would be major sins. So all your minor sins would be forgiven if you have done your fasting of the month of Ramadan with the proper iman and ihtisab, with the expectation of a reward from your Lord. And now, when you begin the fasting, how do you begin the fast? You must, and this is a very highly recommended sunnah, you must have some light meal as a suhoor pre-dawn meal just before Fajr Adhan. You can consume this meal at any time of the night, but the preferable time, the right time, is the time, the last third of the night, which is just before the adhan of Salatul Fajr. You can continue eating and drinking until you hear the alif, the first letter of the adhan. Yeah, but if you are eating something and you just heard the adhan, you cannot continue to eat. You have to stop. Yani, as soon as you hear the of Allahu Akbar, you should, yani, you should not continue. You should stop eating whatever you have. You know, you need to rinse off your mouth if something is remaining in your mouth. Okay, and then once when you began the day of fasting, obviously the first thing you would do is your performance of the Salatul Fajr with the Sunan, and do not forget this Sunnah. You know, it is very difficult to go for Hajj, right? Financially, physically, it takes it a lot of things. But the reward of Hajj is very easy to attain, even without having to physically embark upon the journey of Hajj. How do we do that? If you remain in ibadah from the time you heard Fajr Adhan until Ishraq, until the sunrise, and remain there for another 10-15 minutes and perform 2 rakahs of salah, voluntary salah, Rasulullah SAW has said this is equivalent to Hajjatun Tammatun Tammatun Tam. And he repeated it 3 times. It is like a complete Hajj. What a big reward. No matter how healthy and wealthy you are, in a year you can perform only one Hajj, right? And if it was accepted, if it was a Hajj Mabrur, it is like you are getting the Tamma reward of the Hajj, right? That's once a year. But you can make it every day. Yeah. If you want to, if you put little more effort, the whole Ramadan, you can continue in gaining this reward every day of the month of Ramadan. You are fasting, you are already in a continuous act of ibadah from sunrise to sunset, right? I mean, in fact, not sunrise to sunset, dawn to sunset, right? So, and so when you begin at adhan, you listen to the adhan, and then you continue until your performance of Salatul Fajr. After Salatul Fajr, you may recite the Quran, you may engage in dhikr, you may engage in dua, remain until Ishraq and wait for another 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, and then you perform 2 rakahs of Salah. How easy it is, and the reward is very huge. It will
Right from
be
this Ishraq, you from Ishraq, you mean Salatul Duha that we read, 2 rakah
yes,
of Salatul Duha.
yes. Any voluntary salah that you perform after sunrise, after 10-15 minutes from the sunrise, till 10-15 minutes before the Dhuhr Adhan is considered Salatul Duha. Salatul Duha has all different names, but it is the same Salah that we are talking about. Yeah. So if you perform it earliest time, which is immediately after sunrise, 10-15 minutes from the sunrise, and if it is together done with the all the ibadahs from Fajr Adhan until that moment, then that action would entail a reward of a complete Hajj. One condition in the hadith is that you need to perform your Salatul Fajr in Jama'ah. This is basically applicable for men. Women, you can do your Salatul Fajr together with your children, your family members, whoever is in the household, as a Jama'ah in the house. Yeah. And even if you cannot, some scholars say women, even if they are individually performing Salatul Fajr it would be accepted for this reward. Allahu alam, but it is best if you have somebody, if you are not living alone, if you have somebody in the house, try to perform Salatul Fajr in a Jama. Okay, so this is how we begin the day. When we begin the day, now you have come up to the day of the day has begun, right? Some people might have to go to school, universities, or work or whatever. So you carry on your day as normal. But those who are staying at home and not much work to be done, then you may take a ghailula, which is the sunnah nap that Rasulullah used to take. And that is also you are going to be rewarded. Why you are going to take this short, brief nap? That is to strengthen your body so that you can remain in ibadah more energetically, right? And then you get up and you continue your recitation of the Quran and your dhikr, your dua, and then it comes to Salatul Duhar. You perform Salatul Duhar. So this way you continue until it is the time of Maghrib. When it is very near to the time of Iftar, do not lose your ajr by staying in the kitchen all the time. Especially sisters, and your focus is more to prepare the best meal for those who are fasting, your spouses and your children. It's a good deed. You will get the reward for that. But do not spend so much time in the kitchen. At least try to prepare the iftar few minutes before the sunset so you can sit quietly and make dua, because this is one of the timings of dua mustajaba. Okay, so you need to complete your task and make simple food. Complicated food bring complicated sicknesses and complicated health problems to human beings. So Rasulullah Sallallahu and the Sahabas, they used to have very simple meals. So try to make your meals simple, plan it, prepare it in advance. Whatever takes longer time, leave it after Eid. And not now. Ramadan is not the month of feasting, month of fasting, right? So there's a difference between feasting and fasting. But we have turned our Ramadan into feasting than fasting. Yeah? You should not be focusing too much in inviting so many people and having lots of gatherings, especially this time of Corona. We need to take precautions. You are taking care of yourself is like you are taking care of others as well. You are not socializing with too many people and try to be isolated as much as possible is something to help the entire community. Muslims are not selfish. We are to take care of others. So you can prepare iftar meals and send it to others, but you do not necessarily have to have gatherings at your place or going to different places. You can send food to people. You can identify those who are low income in your area before Ramadan and give them dry rations or whatever they want to. And sometimes you don't know what people like to eat, so you may give them money. And Rasulullah Sallallahu, he used to be always generous. But in Ramadan, he was so extra generous. He used to say, Inna Allah Jawadun yuhibbul Jud. Jawad means someone with a big heart. Means you are so extremely generous, right? Allah loves Jud. Jud means someone who is extremely big-hearted, right? So Rasulullah Sallallahu used to be so big-hearted. So he's normally generous, but in Ramadan he would be extremely generous. Yeah, like a passing wind that you don't know where he's receiving something, and on the other hand nothing remains in his hand. So the more good deeds you do in the month of Ramadan, the value of the deeds are multiplied into many fold, minimum being 10 to 700 times. So Allah knows your intention and Allah will multiply all the deeds during the fasting hours as well as the whole time of Ramadan. And now it come to night. Okay, before night, one of the forgotten sunnah is the breaking of the fast should not be delayed. Rasulullah encourage us to break the fast as earliest as possible. So, as soon as you hear the alif of Allahu Akbar, the first verse part of the adhan, you need to break your fast, preferably with dates and water or whatever is accessible for you. and it is the sunnah if you can find dates and water. Okay. And once when you break the fast, then you do not fill your stomach with big meal. It is not healthy. It is neither the sunnah. So you try to perform your Salatul Maghrib without any delay, because Maghrib time passes very quickly, right? So after performing Salatul Maghrib, you can sit with the family and you can have a good meal, and then you can proceed to your Salatul Isha and Taraweeh. If masajids do not have Taraweeh this Ramadan, you can still have Taraweeh at home. Yeah, and Al-Fatih, inshallah, we will have Taraweeh, but it is not yet decided whether they are going to allow it to public or not. Allahu Alam, in whatever case, you should not, this is a Sunnah Salah. Sunnah Salah, it is preferable that you perform more secluded as possible, right? And if you haven't memorized the entire Quran, you may, maybe within the family, you may have some people who have memorized different portions. So you can arrange different people to read you within the family different days of Ramadan. If not, you do whatever you can. Inshallah, Allah knows what you can, and try every day of Ramadan at least memorize one ayah. Imagine if you put the target, I memorize one ayah every day. At the end of the month, you have completed 30 ayahs. Yeah, those who can memorize one page, do it. So at the end of the month, you are completing 1.5 juzah. Those who can do more than that, do it according to your capacity. Put a target not to leave any day without engaging in memorizing the Quran. At least one ayah. I am 100% sure all of you are capable in more than one ayah. How many minutes it would take for you to memorize Kul Huwallahu Ahad? It's already known, right? So, but if you keep on reading this while you are cooking, while you are driving, while you are shopping, whatever, you keep on repeating this ayah, or you keep on listening to this ayah. Now it is very easy. We have all the gadgets available. You can put your headphones, and like wherever you go, you just keep on listening to it, and it will come to you very easily, right? And then when it come to the salah in your Taraweeh, you recite that ayah you have memorized, and every day you add a new ayah. Yeah, and you add the new ayah with the previous ayah, so it will go into your long-term memory. And after Taraweeh, you can continue to reciting Quran, whatever. Now, if you want to gain a shortcut, some people like shortcuts, right? And those who cannot pray long salawat, try not to miss at least reciting the last 2 ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah. This hadith, this is Hassan hadith, but it is okay to incorporate in our actions. You are reciting the 2 last ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, which is starting from Amin al-Rasulu. This is something that you all can memorize, right? If you do it, it is like Rasulullah said, it is kafiyah. In meaning, say, it is sufficient for you for that night. It is as if you have been worshipping Allah that whole night. Yeah, and do not forget your witr salah before you sleep, and do not forget to wake up early, the last third of the night, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descend to the sama dunya and asking, is there anyone who is seeking forgiveness? I am ready to forgive. Is there anyone who is asking anything? I am ready to give. Don't be under your cozy blankets and nicely sleeping, but be proactive in running to grasping this opportunity, and be awake in the last third of the night of the Ramadan, and arrange your suhoor at that time, and maximize your dua. And when you are making dua, you do not only make dua yourself, but also to make dua for others as well, because the more you make dua for others, you are the one who is going to benefit, because when you are making a dua for another Muslim, the 2 angels in both your sides will say walaka mithli, yani for you the same. And angels do not have to go through those checkpoints and barriers that I mentioned at the beginning of the lecture, right? They are masoomin, they don't commit sin, so their du'as will straight away reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So when for example, if you're asking Allah to forgive XYZ, right? And the angels will ask Allah to forgive you. What a big thing. Yani, you may be forgiven before those people who you have asked to be forgiven, right? So anyway, making du'as for others is a very good habit, and we all need to care for each other. Muslims are one big ummah. We are like to function like one body. If your tooth is aching, only not only your mouth will pain, but your whole body will suffer from that, right? So Muslim Ummah to feel like one body. So anyone who is suffering this Ummah, I should feel it. If not, I have some weakness in our Iman. May Allah strengthen our Iman. May Allah protect us from all evils. May Allah help us to help one another. May Allah grant us taqwa and help us to gain the best in this Ramadan as well as all the days to come after Ramadan. The purpose of the fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He described in the Quran, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Remember this as something, if you want to write it in golden letters, write it down. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Allah doesn't benefit anything from keeping us hungry. Allah doesn't want us to suffer from hunger. But Allah wants to make you a person of taqwa. What is taqwa? Taqwa is your consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You always feel that Allah is watching me. Your love, your obedience, your fear of Allah gather together. That is taqwa. Okay. So for example, I can tell you I'm fasting today. You are not going to watch me every second, right? I can go to a corner, hide from you, and I can eat something, I can drink something. Why shouldn't I do it? Only if I remember the one who can see everything, the one who I cannot hide from is always watching me. So fasting increased taqwa. So may Allah help us all to have taqwa and strengthen our taqwa. And may Allah make us all become among His muttaqeen. I think this is sufficient for today, unless you have questions to ask.
Sister, anyone of you have questions, please unmute your mic and ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Like if the Tarawih is not having in the, like if it is not done in the mosque, if you're doing in the house, can we do it together? Like the cousins also can make the Jama and do in the Jama together, or
Yes, you can.
the
You can do.
brothers and sisters are like all making the rose like and praying together for the Isha and Tarawih? That can be done.
Yes, yes. When you are praying at home, yani like that, and you make the lines the way how the men in the front, the imam in the front, then the men, then the lady, right?
And only the like the male like brothers cannot be led by the sisters, right? Only the
Yes,
male
men.
can lead the females, and if only females, anybody can lead like that.
Yeah, anyone can lead the females.
Okay. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu feek. Any other question?
Yes. Yes, Dr. Najma, I have one question. Jazakallah khair for the amazing lecture, Alhamdulillah.
Barakallahu
Uh,
feek.
uh, I want to know if you are reading alone Taraweeh, and for example, you are reading 20 rakah, right? And now you are at reading the surahs that you have memorized, not reading from your iPad or your phone. You're just reading from your heart what you remember. And now, like all of the surahs we have read, and only Surah Ikhlas and yani last small surahs are left. So we can read Surah Al-Ikhlas also, just very because it's very small in one
Yes.
rakah. We can read that also.
Yeah, you can read not only one full surah, you can read even one ayah in rakah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Because in masjid they read when they do Taraweeh, they read very long Quran and ayah. So you don't feel satisfied when you do very short Taraweeh at home. And it was my very last Ramadan also. And this Ramadan I am also trying to memorize more and more surah so that we can read better at home. But it
inshallah.
always disturb disturbing for me because I run out of surahs very fast. That's the
No
thing.
problem. You can repeat the same surah also in the next rakah. No problem. And you don't, it is not, and it is of course highly recommended that one try to read the full Quran within the Taraweeh. That is why in masajids at least they would read 20 pages a day, in one juzah, so to complete within the Ramadan the entire Quran, right? They would read even more than 20 pages, because sometimes Ramadan is 29 days, right? So but
Yeah.
if you haven't memorized the Quran, the most probable way is to recite whatever you know. And let's say if in the first two rakas um, you read two different surahs, and second, and in the next two rakas you don't know any other surahs, you can repeat the same surah, no problem.
Okay, inshallah. And one more
And,
thing, just a
and
small thing
Tarawih does not have
that
to be 20. I'm sorry. Tarawih does not have to be 20 rakas, right? Tarawih could be any number of rakas. Rasulullah Sallallahu himself prayed only 8 rakas in Tarawih.
yeah.
But obviously his rakas are not to be compared with our rakas. His one rakah he would recite entire Suratul Baqarah and Al Imran and Suratul Nisa all in one rakah, right? And no imam in today's time does that. So that 8 rakah does not mean that whatever you are utilizing your time in ibadah the maximum way possible, right? Yes, you had another question.
Okay. Also, and also last 10 days of Ramadan when we do Qiyamul Layl and when we are praying more during the night, that time also, for example, after you have done Taraweeh and now you cannot go to sleep, yani you are not sleepy. So can you, and you have not done Witr because you want to do it with your Tahajjud. So you can do more rakas also. Yani you can read as many rakas as you want, even if
Yes.
it's past more than 20. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do
Okay,
any
inshallah.
as many, even if you have, and let's say, for example, you have prayed witr along with the Taraweeh after Salatul Isha, right? Now you slept for a while, you woke up, and you have still time. Now, you are praying witr earlier should not prevent you from praying more. You can pray as many as salah you want to by two rakas, but there are no two witrs in one night. So you don't pray another witr after that. Okay?
Yeah, inshallah. Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu fiki. Okay, any other question?
And for the tahajjud, it is compulsory to sleep and get up for the tahajjud. Like we should sleep. Is that a
No,
condition?
no, there is no condition. But in a normal day, it is recommended that you have taken a rest and struggle in waking up and doing the tahajjud.
But
Okay,
if we
but
have
it is
not
not a
slept,
condition.
like we are awake till 1 o'clock,
It's
one
okay.
fifteen,
It's completely okay.
we can directly pray. Okay,
Yes.
Jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu fiki. Any other question?
Anyone else has any questions?
Yes, I have a question. If, for example, if me and my daughter are praying together, can we do Jama?
Yes, of course. The
So
one
I
who,
can lead.
if you are the imam, you will be on the left hand side, and your daughter will be on your right hand side.
Okay, and but we pray in one row.
Yeah. You are standing in the same row. You are you are standing on the left side, and your daughter is on your right hand side. If you had two daughters, you will be standing in the middle, and both the daughters in both your sides.
Oh, okay. Jazakallah.
Barakallahu fiki. Any other question?
Can you just repeat this? If two people are praying, the imam stands on the left side.
Imam stands on the left hand side. The whoever is following will be standing to the right of the imam.
Okay. Jazakallah.
Even in any jama, how the jama begins? The imam stand in the middle, right? The jama, if normal jama, the first person is standing right behind the imam. The second person come and join to which side? Right side. Okay. So, if you are only two people, imam will be standing to the left side, and the musalli, the follower, will be standing with the imam to the right side. If it is two ladies, if it is two men, then the imam is standing in the front, and the ma'moon will be standing right behind. If it is a man and a woman, let's say a couple is praying, husband and wife. Husband stand right in front, and wife stand right behind. Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Najma.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Can we use mobile or iPads or Quran for Taraweeh, inshallah?
No. And obviously many modern scholars have given fatwa, yes, you can, but it is not the sunnah.
So the juice, there are small juice. Can we use the juice or else?
No, you should not read from a book in your salah, as much as possible, because see, nobody at the time of Sahaba or Tabi'in or Tabat Tabi'in read from a written manuscript or written paper or parchment or whatever in their salah, right? You recite whatever you have memorized, or you choose someone who has memorized the most to be your imam and pray behind that imam. It is not a requirement that you complete the Quran in your salah by reading through other means, because you are missing so many sunan while doing this. During your salah, your eyes should be where? Your eyes should be focused on the position of your sajda, right? So if you are looking into a book, you are not looking into your sajda position. You are turning to your left or right or where the Quran is kept, right? And your eyes is constantly moving with that. Yeah. And this is not part of the sunnah. So, some modern scholars have now allowed this because some people have asked this question of if you are memorizing and if you are forgetting and you just need to make sure that what you are reciting is correct, so you leave a Quran open right in front of you and while you are reciting. This is for those who are memorizing the Quran, newly memorized the Quran, in order not to make mistakes. Like you have just memorized,
For
you have just
Jamaat.
done your hifz. You have completed your memorization. But sometimes in the salah you might read a ayah and suddenly you will get some waswasa. Oh, I made a mistake. Maybe this is not the right ayah. Maybe I forgot one word. So in that case, those who are revising the Quran during the salah, they are allowed to keep the mushaf open right in front of you while you know that which page you are reading, right? You keep the mushaf open in front of you so that you can peep into it to see whether you have made a mistake or not. Okay, but I don't think you should use it for Taraweeh. You should try remaining to the best of your abilities, strictly adhere to the sunnah, and Allah will reward you, inshallah. And have the niyyah that Allah bless you with the ability to memorize the full Quran and being able to recite it in your salah. It's not an unachievable target. Most of the Sahabas have started, some people say that, oh, we have children, we have grandchildren, we have become old. That's not an excuse not to memorize the Quran. Not only young can memorize, but old can definitely memorize. Most of the Sahabas, they have passed their 50s when they began memorizing the Quran. And you all are much younger than that. You can do it, inshallah. Okay, and obviously I think this year you will not be able to do itikaf in masajids, because itikaf is something that can be only done in masajid. It's not to be done in the houses. So if the masajids are not open, so this is something that we will not be able to do. Any other question?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, sister.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah. Sister, this last day of Ramadan, when we 10 days of Ramadan, when we perform Umrah, is it equal to Hajj?
Yes, there is a hadith, and there is also another hadith saying that it is equal to performing Umrah ma'ar Rasul, yani with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this year, I don't know how the possibilities are. They are going to have certain quotas and limit the numbers, and I have no idea how it would be. But if you have the possibility, yes, why not? Try.
Okay, so it will be, it is that Sahih Hadith, no? We can
Yes.
accept it.
Yes.
Okay, sister. Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu fiki. And also one thing I forgot to mention is Zakatul Fitter. Zakatul Fitter is something that would remove the mistakes that you have done during the month of Ramadan, yani slight mistakes, maybe you have done things that are not befitting for a fasting person, arguments or whatever. As this should be done from the Maghrib of the last day of Ramadan. You have done your iftar before the next day Fajr. Before you go out for Salatul Eid, you need to complete that Zakatul Fitter. Zakatul Fitter is obligatory upon each and every living Muslim person, but it is obligatory upon the head of the household. And the head of the household has to give Zakatul Fitr on behalf of each and every person living under his or her care, and it has to be given preferably in food, not with money. Yeah, of course, now it is the tendency of giving through money, but the right sunnah is to give it in the most staple food item in that area, in food item, after Maghrib, after the last day of your fasting, after you break your fast, till Salatul Fajr of the next day, and till the Salatul Eid, before you go to your Eid Musalla. Any other question?
Jazakallah khair, Sister Najma.
Barakallahu feekum.
So
And the
it's
amount
okay, right,
of
to
this, the
send.
quantity of food.
I think you. Okay.
Wait, Ali.
Okay. Amount of the food is like one sa'a is calculated according to certain type of barley, 2.05 kilograms of it. But if you are giving in rice, try to give it little more than that. Minimum 2.5 kilograms.
We can send this money also, right, Sister Najma, to India?
Giving money is not a sunnah, but try as
No,
much
appointed
as
person, appointed person who can buy for me and give them.
Yes, you can appoint a person, and you can instruct the person to buy the food item and give it after completing the last day of fasting, after Maghrib till next day Fajr.
Okay. Jazakallah khairan kathiran.
Even a newborn baby, and for example, a baby was born right before Maghrib of the last day of Ramadan, the head of the household has to pay Zakatul Fitr on behalf of that baby as well. Okay.
Assalamualaikum, sister.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sister, this has to be paid in the place where we are staying, right? If we are in some resident of some other country, if I'm in Bahrain and I'm actually an Indian, then it should not be paid in India, right? It should be paid in Bahrain, where I am, right? That's the
preferably if you can find poor people in your area. But let's say, for example, you are living in a very affluent community and everybody is rich and very well to do. Then in that case, you may send it to your country.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
Barakallahu feeki. Any other question? Okay. So we'll conclude here, inshallah.
Yes, Miss. I think there
Oh.
no one has any more questions. Jazakallah
Oh.
khair, Dr.
Barakallahu feekum. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. May Allah forgive us. May Allah protect us from all the evils in the entire creation all throughout our lives. In